hiya! Let's do this. Let's fucking go. I'm J Mace. I'm not a YouTuber or anything, but I wanted to do this just for fun. I recently finished Fire Emblem Sacred Stones on 0% growths. Hard mode, of course, or difficult mode, I guess it's called. A very verbose game. Gotta use them big words. I figured I might as well play on hard mode because if you're doing a challenge run, that's sort of the point, right? It's supposed to be hard. I did go with Eirika route, mostly because I'm more familiar with that route. I also don't really like Ephraim. I guess I don't really like Eirika either. No hate though, guys, no hate. I think this game is really fun. Overall, the characters are great. I don't know, the main lords just never really vibe with me, I guess. Great positive start to this video, yay. I've thought a lot about the like tier placements, the unit placements. I guess I don't have a script or anything. I'm just gonna speak from my heart, like any commander should, and we're just gonna jump right into it, I guess. So, okay, I guess first of all, criteria. How am I rating these? So this is not unit recommendation. Unit recommendation is basically just Seth and Saleh is really good. Tethys on every single turn. Use Orson when you have him, and like Innes is really good. Use Garrick. Also use Null. He's insane. Use Cormag too, but like not all that much. Use Colm. He's good. Like, see, this is not a unit recommendation list or whatever. We're doing a tier list. Tier lists are pretty useless. They don't really tell you what you should do or anything like that. Like, they're not advice. This is not legal advice. Tier lists are just for fun. This is basically just me rating each unit's contributions or like potential contributions, because like, you don't really end up using all units, even on 0% growths. You don't get any stats from leveling up, but you can still use stat boosters, you can still use promotion items, so you do still like sort of you can still get weapon ranks from fighting, so you still have some like there's still a difference between investing in units and not investing in them. So for example, like investing like a bunch of stat boosters in Garrick like will make him a lot better, but that also means you didn't use those stat boosters on someone else, and maybe someone that I ended up not using would have become more viable if I like gave them those stat boosters that I gave to Garrick, right? So I have tried to take that into account. So this doesn't like represent just one playthrough, it just sort of represents an amalgam of like several possible playthroughs, I guess. Something like that. So we're just gonna jump right into it, I guess. So, first of all, let's get the obvious thing out of the way. Seth, best unit in the game. No surprises here. In 0% growths, he's even more good, I guess. Like, he just stands out even more in 0% growths because like no one else can really do much, especially early on. Like the first few chapters are basically what you would expect, but like starting around like chapter 5, you start feeling the fact that all your other units are really weak compared to Seth, but Seth still like mops the floor with everything else. Like it's not even close. He's the best, obviously. He doesn't even really fall off by the end game. Like even on 0% growths, in the final chapter, he's just running around. He has the Vidofnir. He takes a bunch of damage. He deals a bunch of damage. Like he will double them. Sometimes one-shot enemies. He's crazy good, dude. Like this is insane. What else are we gonna do? Are we gonna like fill in these tiers? I guess we'll do that. Fill them in a little bit. All right. What's gonna be like the best unit in A tier? What was the best unit in A tier? I don't remember. I think I might have placed Colm here, actually. I know, this looks really strange, right? A thief. But Colm can get some really useful items. There are 4 unique stat boosters you can only get by stealing them with Colm, and to me, like, that means he gets the full credit for that. And those items are... there's an energy ring in chapter 7. That +2 strength is really handy. You also get a dragon. No, you don't get a dragon shield. That's something Rennek gets, right? You do get a speed wing. You can steal it from Amelia in chapter 9. And that speed wing is very important. And the only way to get it is to steal it with Colm. You can also just recruit her to get it. But if you do that, you don't get the speed wing in chapter 13. The only way to get both speed wings is to steal from Amelia in chapter 9. So that speed wing is super important in 0% growth. You can also steal a talisman. That's not super important. But what was it? There was one more. There was one more really good stat booster. I don't remember what it was though. But there's one more thing he steals, and he doesn't really do anything else. Like he helps you get some treasure or whatever. But the game would be a lot harder without most of that extra speed wing. So like, I'm really just rating a speed wing plus some change here. And the speed wing is just that good. Like this character is just a walking speed wing. He's so good. Do not underestimate that contribution. I ended up giving that speed wing to Garrick, and that let him double so many more enemies that he would not have otherwise. It was also part of my like end game strategy of having Garrick double the Demon King with Garm. Anyway, I guess Garrick goes here as well. Garrick S tier. You get him in chapter 10. You really get him in chapter 11. He doesn't do anything in chapter 10 because the chapter is so short. He sort of takes over a lot of the like stuff Seth would have done previously. He doesn't have the same move as Seth. He doesn't contribute as much overall because he joins pretty late in the game. Like he joins halfway through, so he's only around for half the game. But as soon as he joins, like he has base 15 strength, skill, speed, and I think his defense is like 12 or something. He's by far your best combat unit, and he will be for the rest of the game. If you give him 2 speed wings and train him to use Garm, he can double Demon King. He's basically the only one who can double the Demon King and survive combat with him in 0% growth, so that's pretty useful. Garm with Garrick is also like your best way of getting a really fast unit, and of course Garm hits really hard. If you play Sacred Stones, you know how good Garm is. Garrick, obviously insta promote, whatever, really good unit. I guess we're not doing like tier by tier here. Tethys, also S tier. Maybe she's better than Garrick. I don't actually know. They're very close. I think if so like Tethys joins at the same time as Garrick. I think if she joined like in chapter 1, she would probably be the best unit in the game. Dancing is just so good. But I think she's very, very, very slightly behind Garrick. She's a bit bulkier than you would think. She can pretty often survive exactly 1 hit with her 18 HP and 5 defense. So she's so fast, no one can double her. You need 23 attack to one-shot her, which a lot of enemies don't actually have. So she ends up here. You can dance to help like rescue drop and stuff, which you need pretty often. Lets you makes it easier to like expose your healers because you can move more, or you can pull back. Lets you heal twice in a turn. Great for building staff rank on Molder. Yeah. I don't know what to say. Like you get so few units that are good at combat, so like it's not like you can fill your deployment slots with good combat units. So like Tethys' turn transforming into a good combat turn for someone else is just so useful. Like you can have yeah, you know what I'm saying. She's good. I guess let's place Dussel here. Should Dussel even be this high? I don't know. He's maybe. I said I put a lot of thought into this, and I did, but now it looks stupid to me. I don't know. I guess this is always what happens, right? Dussel is he's a walking tank, and he really is walking because he do be having 6 movement. Once he joins, he wants to do a lot of the same things that like Seth and Garrick are doing, but he's only around for a third of the game compared to Seth's full game and Garrick's half game. So maybe this is too high, but like he's better at combat than Seth is, but he's not as good as reaching it. That 2 move makes a huge difference. So I say he's a full tier below these guys, but he helps out so much in the end game because he's like one of your like 3 people that can actually fight. so they can actually fight well. So yeah, I guess no, it's one of 4 units that can fight really. Because the next one we're gonna talk about is Sally. Sally's so good. I'm gonna put it in S tier. There's a really good argument for like putting him here, top of A tier, but I don't think he is that far behind. I think he's closer to these guys than the guys that are gonna be in this tier. Obviously he joins with A rank Anima, B rank Light, C rank Staves. He can use Barrier right away to just start spamming that and building staff rank, because you do want to get him to A for the warp. He's the best warper in 0% growth by far. You can also give him 1 energy ring if you want to, like give him +1 warp range. I did that. That ended up helping out a lot in Darkling Woods, chapter 20. That +1 warp range was really clutch. Sally also like by far the best Excalibur user. And Excalibur is a really good tome. It's pretty much for SETI Junior, and that's pretty high praise. He can't really use it because of his con. He gets weighed down by 5 and it gives him +5 speed, so it's really just a super high might tome for him. Unless you give him the body ring, which gives him +2 speed with it, which lets him have 16 attack speed, which is really good on 0% growths. Really, really good. The only one who is that fast otherwise is like Garrick, or whoever is using Garm, I guess. But Sally can use the body ring. He's by far the best user of the body ring. Seth doesn't need it, Garrick doesn't need it, like no one of your like combat units need it, and like the non-combat units are probably using mounts, so giving them extra con is actually a downside. So probably Sally gets both body rings, that's what I did anyway. That lets him cast like all the anima spells, gives him -1 speed with Excalibur, which means he has a total of what, 18 AS, which is really good. He just destroys everything. Never ended up using light magic with him, but you can do that if you want to. Yeah, staff utility really good. He has by far the biggest range with the physic, which is really useful. It makes it so much easier to like split up your guys without being too exposed. Yeah, and that's gonna be the last unit in S tier. Like no one else can really touch these guys. Sally, he basically even when he doesn't fight, he contributes so much by just spamming staves with his high magic and high range. And when he does fight, he usually destroys everything. He is much better than these guys at killing monsters a lot of the time, because enemy resistance tends to be pretty bad. He was one of the few people that could actually hurt Lion, or could actually fight Lion, I guess. I had to give him an angelic robe and put a barrier staff on him, put a barrier on him for him to fight Leon, and I ended up having to do that to preserve Garm uses for Demon King, because without Garm I couldn't fight Demon King. So it was pretty scuffed in the end, but it was fun, and Sally was really useful there. But that's not really what I'm rating him for. I'm rating him for like insane overkill combat by like from when he joins to the end of the game. Huge bump when he gets Excalibur, huge utility boost when he gets A rank staves and can use warp. Super good unit, super good unit. On Ephraim route, this would be very different. Probably these two would swap places because of when they join. Next in A tier, not Null, although he is in A tier. Let's put him here. He joins at the same time as Dusel. I think he is not quite as good as Dusel. But he's insanely good. Insta promote him to summoner, just use summons every turn. You can also have him heal if you want to. Never have him fight, he's terrible at fighting. Just use summons. Summons are super broken, especially on 0% growth when you can't really safely bait some enemies. Yeah, Null, just very useful unit. Starts doing useful stuff right away. He would be... okay, so I think I might be overrating him a bit, because he's only around for the last third of the game. But there are so many like parts of that game, so many instances in that part that would be so much harder without Null. So maybe I'm overrating him because he's not around for very much, but like when he's around, he is so good. Starts contributing right away. Insanely good unit. I'm putting him in A tier. I don't even care. But there is one man who is better than Null, and it's Molder the Boulder, baby! Look at this man. Look at this dude. He's so good. He's your first healer, so he gets like full credit for healing in like early parts of the game. He's not the best at healing like long term. After a while, I guess we'll talk about Arthur at the same time. He's gonna be here. Not in between these guys, because I feel there's some distance between Arthur and Mulder. But I don't think this is wrong, but I'm gonna do it this way. So, Arthur reaches promotion before Mulder pretty easily, because combat EXP is just a lot more than staff EXP in this game. But Mulder gets more credit because he gets to S rank staves easier, which means that he's probably gonna be the one to use Latona, which is a really useful staff. Although you can easily have Arthur do that if you want to. But what ended up happening for me was that I would just field both of these two on every map that I could, because healing was so important. Because on 0% growth I ended up having to player face most units. So healing was super important for my other units to not have to just spend their turns using vulneraries. Fighting an enemy face was just too scary a lot of the time, because most of my guys couldn't like fight 2 units on the same turn. They're just that weak, I guess. So I ended up having to use a lot of healing. Arthur promotes first, and at that point he's just better than Mulder for the rest of the game. I did actually get him to S rank light. I ended up I did some really scuffed cheesy strategies in the like Renee chapter 16. I warped him into the shaman room and had him just fight shamans for the rest of the map to get him to S rank light, which ended up being completely useless because Evaldi sucks. Mulder, super good though. Both of these only have 5 range with like ranged staves because of the low magic. They're not very good at combat. Mulder can take 1 hit sometimes in the early game, which is very good. He can actually rescue drop a little bit with his high con, more than you would expect. And yeah, like after Arthur promotes, both of these get like shared healing credits. After Sally joins, like he probably gets more healing credits than these guys actually, because he will heal more and have more range, so he can heal more often. But Mulder, pretty irreplaceable early on. I will say that he would probably be higher on a growth split. Like he might be here, like on a growth playthrough, right? Because one thing I've noticed on 0% growths, there's no reason to use anyone except Seth early on. So healing becomes a little less useful because Seth can fight on enemy phase. So like the thing I said about like enemies being scary, that starts around the route split, like around chapter 9 and forward. But before that, like Seth can usually just pop a vulnerary on his turn and equip a javelin and just kill everything on enemy phase. And Mulder is really around to just make sure your scrubs don't die, because they will be fighting a little bit, but mostly Seth will be doing everything. So otherwise I would be giving him like more credit for the like early game healing or whatever. But he's here for now. I think it's pretty good for him. And now, next up is Ines. I don't remember if I wanted to put him in A tier or B tier. I think he's probably the best unit in B tier. Maybe it should be the worst unit in A tier. I don't know. Ines it helps a lot. He's one of the very few people that can kill wyverns easily, and even if like against wyverns his combat is super overkill, he kills them very easily, and those are units that a lot of people can't really fight or can't fight easily or safely. Other than that, he usually just kills 1 enemy every player phase. He's pretty bulky for his class, I guess. Not that that really matters. So he's just way bulkier than most of your units. He has around 30 HP, I think. It's a little less than 30, maybe 27 or something. And he has 10 defense and resistance, I think. And he has really high luck. And that's actually very useful, because he's one of the few people that will almost never see crit chance from enemies. So he's usually very safe to expose. He can usually take 1 or 2 hits. He hits really hard, he doubles most enemies. He joins with the silver bow, and he's the only one that can use that silver bow. And until it breaks, which for me happened very late, his combat is just super, his damage output is really good. And once you get the Nidhogg, he gets a huge boon from that. He's obviously the only one who's going to use it. And he uses that like to get a huge stat boost in the late game. Next up we have Orson. Obviously really weird unit to rate. Sort of like Athos in Fire Emblem 7. So I'm going to give him the Athos rating. He's the best in C tier. He's basically Seth, but for only one chapter. That's the way you can see it for that one map. The designers forgot what Seth is supposed to look like, so they gave him this portrait. That's really weird. This is the boss of chapter 16, guys. What are you doing? Anyway, obviously, he gets full credit for like soloing a chapter, basically, and that's about it. That's all he does. Okay, we have Cormag. Okay, Innes is not gonna be top of B tier. Cormag is. Cormag is a lot less good in 0% growth because his defense is so low, or like his bulk is just really low in general. He can usually fight one enemy. He can go fight enemies like one-on-one, but he has 8 move once you promote him, which you should do right away because that's easy. No, because that's free. Sorry, I'm a little tired, fellas. Yeah, just promote him to Wyvern Knight. He's pretty fast, he hits pretty hard, his accuracy is usually really shaky, which is kind of annoying, but it's sort of something you have to deal with on 0% growth. But these units, they have such high skill that they don't really have to care about it. Sally doesn't have to care about it either. Yeah, so these 4 units, they just don't care about this, but like, also not Innes, I guess. Yeah, it kind of stands out for Cormag. He's like your best combat unit that actually has bad hit rates, usually. At least in the late game. He can help a lot with rescue dropping, because he's a flyer with 8 move. He's pretty good, but not like insanely good. The reason he's better than Innes is that his even when he can't fight, he has a lot of utility, whereas Innes does not. Innes always has to be like close to enemies, but not so close that he gets swarmed and like surrounded and dies, which is sort of weird, right? Sort of a weird comparison because like, but his utility is so good, so I'm putting him here. Okay, I don't want to do Amelia now. Amelia's too spicy, dude. Let's put her last. Next up is Dazla. Dazla, he's gonna be C tier. He's bad, dude. Like he's not good. I feel like you have to use him on 0% growth. For me, he replaced Garcia. And I don't mean replaced as in, oh, you can only use one axe user. No, I mean that after Dazla joined, I never really found a reason to deploy Garcia again. But I did end up using Dazla every map until I got Dusel. So it was sort of this like weird ping pong or whatever between like first using Garcia, then using Dazla, and then using Dusel. I think Dazla is the worst out of these. He doesn't double anything ever with his 9 speed. His accuracy is usually pretty terrible. He gets doubled quite a bit. He can wield all the axes with his insane con, but it's hard to rescue him. So he doesn't have very much like mobility, and that's what I wanted to say about his con. That's also a downside. I would rather just have him have like I don't know, 12 speed, 12 con, much better than 9 speed, 15 con. But he is what it is. He has a lot of HP and a lot of strength. When he crits, he will kill something, but it doesn't crit super often. 15% crit, that's pretty good, but his skill is really low, and that also means it doesn't hit very often, and you do need to hit in order to crit. So I don't know, very, very disappointing, this guy. I thought he would be better, but he kind of sucks. Okay, what unit do we do next? We're gonna have a lot of units in this tier, I think, because a lot of these guys are just kind of the same. Like, obviously Orson stands out as really strong, but he's only around 1 chapter, so who cares? Okay, so who do we put here next? I guess we can take Mr. E, King Ephraim or whatever. Is he better than Dazla? I don't fucking know, dude. I don't know. I think he is, but not by a lot. Not by a lot. No, Dazla is around for more chapters, but Dazla isn't very good in those chapters. You kind of just deploy him because you just need someone who can just absorb damage, really. Yeah, Dosla blocks the way. That's what you need to do. Ephraim, no, I'm gonna put him here. He's also game over condition, which is like really annoying. Not that you can afford to lose a lot of units in this mode, but you can afford to lose some units, right? No, I'm not gonna use that argument. But Ephraim, he hits really, really hard. He's pretty fast, not fast enough to double by the time you get him. You only really have him in the last third of the game on Eirika Rev. So he doesn't double anything, but he can one-shot some things with Siegmund, which is mostly why he's here. Also, like, obviously insta-promote him, not insta, but you promote him as soon as you can. And you don't really use him anything at all before you promote him. He kind of sucks before then, but then he gets some nice utility with rescue dropping. He can sometimes fight like one monster, pretty rarely, like he will die very easily, so be careful with him, but he can contribute a bit. We have Garcia. I think he actually goes here. He helps a lot in the early game. He's very good for like just placing in the way of an enemy to keep your scrub safe. I found him pretty useful. I'm mostly putting him an entire tier above Dosla. It's like half a tier above Dosla, I guess, because of displacement. Yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say about Garcia. I gave him Ross's Hatchet so he could have an accurate option at 1-2 range, which turned out to be pretty good. He falls off like pretty quickly, but he can still like contribute. He has high con and can help with rescue dropping. And there's no real need. It's difficult to like move him around, you might think, except Franz and Vanessa both have really high aid, so you can just kind of ferry him around however you want. It's pretty nutty. Hits hard, it doesn't really double anything, but he can take his beat. He's basically Dosla, except he doesn't have like crippling hit issues, I guess. And also he doesn't really get doubled very often, and I think that warrants him being higher up. I will say, like, the part where you have Garcia, that part of the game is easier than the part where you have Dosla. Otherwise, Garcia would probably be higher up than this, but I think this is pretty good. Maybe I'm overrating him, I don't know. I'm gonna put him there. It's my tier list, guys. It's my tier list. Who's next? Cavalier Bros, I guess. Where do we put the Cavalier Bros? I think at this point we should get another tier, maybe? Because we will end up having more tiers than this. Although I think D... maybe D is fine. I think they're gonna be top of D tier. No, they should probably be with Ephraim, right? Yeah, they should be with Ephraim. They should be with Ephraim. No, should they? Maybe. Maybe, I'm not sure. So, like, basically, these guys, they are around in chapter 5X. So is Ephraim. They're all bad there. Only Orson is good in that chapter. And there's no reason to, like, feed them kills or anything, because they don't get, like, stats. You can promote one of them. And I ended up promoting Kyle. But he still wasn't very good. I only ended up using him for, what, like 2 or 3 chapters total after he promoted? Yeah, I only ended up using him for 2 chapters after he promoted. I promoted him in chapter 9. And then I used him in chapter 10. No, I didn't use him in chapter 10, because chapter 10 you just skip it by dropping Seth over the wall. Yeah, spoiler, we don't recruit Marisa. We don't recruit her. She sucks. So it wasn't very useful there. He did help in chapter 11. Which one is chapter 12 again? I know 13 is the one where you get Cormag. So which one is 12? Yeah, that's the one where you get Saleh. He helped a little bit there. So I'm gonna, like, whoever you promote is like the better one, obviously. For me, it looks like this, but if I promoted Ford, it would be this. But for me, it's this. I'm gonna have this. It doesn't really matter. It's whoever you promote first. I think Kyle is probably the better choice to promote. He's a bit bulkier, so it doesn't die as easily. Ford has 1 more speed, but Kyle has 1 more con. And I think that barely lets him use javelins without being way down, which is pretty good. So yeah, I think he's just better. He has +2 strength, +2 defense, I think. Maybe it's only +1 on one of those. I don't remember. Anyway, then we have Are we gonna put someone in D tier at this point? I kind of want to put someone in D tier. I'm gonna put Renak here. He's gonna be the top of D tier, maybe. I'm not sure. The only thing Renak really does is give you a Dragon Shield. He can steal a red gem too. I really didn't need it. My convoy had so many items in it that I could just sell for money. A lot of promotion items you can just sell in this mode because you don't need to promote all your scrubs. So Renak stealing that is not very good. So this rating is I'm really just rating one Dragon Shield in that you get in chapter, which number is it? Chapter 18? Is that right? No, chapter 17, River of Regrets, right? I think that's 17. The first time you fight Leon, I don't know how to say it. You can steal a Dragon Shield from a Berserker. You don't super need that Dragon Shield at that point. You're gonna be fighting a lot of magical enemies from this point on, and the physical units you do fight are super weak, so you really don't need it, but you can get it. You can put it on Tethys, and there is one enemy in Darkling Woods that she can survive a hit from where she otherwise wouldn't have. And yeah, this sounds insane, right? Putting a fucking Dragon Shield on your Dancer this late in the game. But I think it's actually the best use of that Dragon Shield. I end up giving it to Duzel though. I don't think it changed a thing. With Vidofner, he usually takes 0 damage from physical units anyway. I don't know, I think Renak being top of D tier is fine. D tier is gonna be units that like do one thing throughout the entire run, and that's it. And he does one thing, and it's a pretty useful thing, I guess. I don't know, like at this point, like, does it even matter? I don't know if it even matters. But I'm gonna rate him like that. Who else do we have? We have Joshi Boshi. I think he belongs next to Garcia, a little bit below. He and Garcia are like your backup combat units throughout the early game. Garcia joins earlier, so he gets to do a little bit more. Joshua deals more damage usually, but he often dies in 2 hits, whereas Garcia usually takes 3 hits to kill. So it's easier to keep Garcia alive. He has 1 to range as well. But Joshua does deal more damage. He can do like damage. He can actually like fight later into the game if you like train his sword rank and promote him. The problem for like both these one problem for both these units is like obviously the first hero crest goes to Garrick, so they don't promote very early. Sorry. Got the hiccups. So they don't promote very early, so they sort of like fall off, and like once you get the second hero's crest, like do you really want to start using these guys instead of like the better units you already have at this point? Probably not, but he helps a bit in the early game, and he's fine. I think B tier looks really high for him though. Ah man, B tier kind of looks high for a lot of these. Maybe I'm just associating this letter with like overall goodness. Like if we wanted to name these, this would be like top tier, high tier, upper mid tier, lower mid tier, low tier, right? And then F tier will be bottom tier. All right, what more units do we have? We have Gilliam. He's here. He helps a lot in chapter 9, where you kind of have to form a wall to not die, and the place you start at has like, it's not really a choke point, it's like a really wide choke corridor, which is 3 tiles wide, so you need 3 dudes to block it, and Gilliam can help with that. He can't get run around it until the mages show up, but the mages are somewhat easy to kill with other units, so it's not a huge problem. And other guys died to the mages as well. But like he helped a lot in that chapter, otherwise he wasn't very helpful at all, but in that one chapter he was good. It wasn't great, he was good. He was fine, good, whatever. Who's gonna be the next unit? Who's next to the chopping block? We can put Cyrene here, I guess. She also ends up doing like one thing. She can help in the Gorgon Egg chapter. She's pretty good for that. She was very important for me actually, rescue dropping in Darkling Woods. I ended up 2-turning Darkling Woods I think that was the best strategy for me by far, because it would have taken so many resources to fight through all the monsters, and I do think you need Cyrene to do turn that chapter. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but for me she was required for sure. So she did 1 or 2 things, and that was pretty helpful. So I guess she goes... Does she go above Gilliam? I guess. Gilliam is... You really don't need him in the early game, but you can use him, right? Like, he helps. Seth isn't everywhere at once, so the Gilliam is pretty useful for like protecting your other scrubs. So I guess this rating is fine. Yeah. Also, chapter 9 is like really hard. So Gilliam helping there is a huge boon. Although, like I said, like, does it really matter how you rate these guys in this tier? I don't fucking know, dude. Alright, just for fun, we're gonna add another tier here. And this is gonna be the F tier. And this is for units that do absolutely nothing. Gray, no color, no flavor. This is for units that do absolutely nothing. You get them, you never use them. We have, I'm gonna try to order everything here as well. I guess Ewan, like, he's very easy to recruit. He gives you an energy ring, but he doesn't get credit for that. Units only get credit for what they do as blue units, like for what they do when they are, you know, when you play as them. You don't have to ever like bring Ewan to a chapter or train him or anything to get the energy ring. He just joins with it, so he doesn't get credit for it. Like, no one gets credit for their starting inventory. They get credit for what they can do with the starting inventory, maybe, if they're the best at doing that. Okay, so we have all our tiers. France, Mr. France Aruba, he goes here. He's really bad in this mode. He helps a little bit in the early game, but the lack of growth just makes him die really easy. But he can fight a bit in the early game. He can rescue drop in the late game if you want, but you have better units for that anyway. You have Ross. He's actually gonna go here. There's one, he's gonna be the bottom of D tier for sure. There's one thing he can do. One thing he can do. If you train him really hard, you can have him promoted to... train him really hard. If you like do your best to use him to get him to level 10, you can promote him to pirate, and he can rescue drop someone over the river in chapter 7. And that can make it a little bit easier to steal the guiding ring from the mage and get away with it. No, the energy ring from the mage. Sorry, not guiding ring. Yeah, that you definitely want that energy ring, and it can be pretty tough to get it without Ross. I did it without Ross, but that means you lose a turn. I don't know if that matters. I feel like it matters, so I'm gonna put him here. He can do one thing throughout the run, so we're putting him here. We got Vanessa. She's the same as France, but she flies. She's probably better than Cyrene. She fights a little bit in the early game. She has way more defense than she has any right to as like an early joining Peg Knight. She has 6 defense, I think. So she actually survives. Like she often takes like more hits to kill than you would think. Like even late into the game, she usually takes 2 hits to kill, which is pretty funny. Most units don't have 24 attack against her, which is pretty funny. She has 15 aid, which is super important. She's one. Vanessa and Tana are the only units that can carry Garrick after he promotes. And that's really important for some chapters. Alright, I guess Tana is next. She's gonna be... where is she gonna be? She's probably going to be in B tier, actually. Where do we put her? I'm not really sure. Next to Ines? She's not as good as Cormag, but in some ways she's better because she can carry Garrick. So this is sort of weird, right? You have 2 paths with Tana. You can either promote her and she's like fine at fighting, she's probably here, or you can not promote her and she can carry Garrick, which sounds like absurd, right? But she's one of the few people that can do it, and out of her and Vanessa, she's the only one that can carry Garrick to the gate in chapter 20 and survive a hit from Reeve. Vanessa can't do that. Vanessa will die. Even if you put pure water on her. For Vanessa to survive that, you need to bait away one of the moguls, and then you need to have her not get hit by a 90. and then she can barely survive a hit from Reeve with like 2 HP to spare. Whereas Tana just tanks that shit like a boss at base level, unpromoted. And I think that's really, really useful. But that's... she also gets credit for rescue dropping Seth over the cliff in chapter 10. So I think she's gonna be up here. The best rescue drop utility unit. The only reason she's this far above Vanessa is that she can survive a lot more. Most of the time, she takes 1 more hit to kill, and that is just so useful. Okay, what else do we have? We have Lara Shell. I guess we'll put her like somewhere here. The only thing she really does is recruit Renak. Otherwise, you have to pay 10,000 to get him. So basically, like, you bring Lara Shell, and you get the unit that gets the Dragon Shield. Otherwise, you have to pay for the unit that gets the Dragon Shield. Like, she gives you a bunch of money, basically, if you want the Dragon Shield. Or you can just ignore Renak, I guess. I don't know. She can do one thing. I guess I'll put her here. Like I said, I don't know how to order these. Like, all of them do, like, one thing, and it's, like, pretty good. I guess it's okay. It helps a little bit. It's not important. Okay. Who's next? Naomi, I guess I'm actually gonna put her here. She can use the ballista in chapter 7, which sounds like a meme strategy, but it's actually helpful. I know the LTC uses it. The 0% growth LTC does that, which is pretty funny. She does recruit Calm, but does she really get credit for that? I guess she does. You don't have to field her. She just does it in her joining chapter. But yeah, I guess that is the thing she does. I don't really care about this order so much. I'm just gonna be fine putting her here, I guess. We only got bad units left. What a crappy world we live in, huh? Natasha. So okay, Natasha is probably like the last unit here that is actually interesting to talk about. If Arthur or Mulder, if either one of them were not in the game, she would probably be up here, just because staff utility is so good. But because they are both in the game, there's really no reason to ever use her, unless you play like Iron Man or like let them die or whatever. Because it's very good to have 2 healers, but you almost never need 3 healers. So, and she's always the last choice, right? And then after you get Sally, like, are you gonna bring like Sally, Mulder, Arthur, and Natasha? Like, no, probably not. I know the LTC trains her, which is pretty funny, just because they need that extra staff rank, and training Arthur is too slow, I think. Or maybe it's something like that, I don't really remember. But I'm going to put her... Like, this is so weird. Like, you could use her, right? You could use her, and she would help. So I feel like putting her here is dumb. It's like, this is like, Ewan is never gonna help you. Natasha will help you if you use her. Like, it's a worse choice than like bringing these two, or like either one of them. I guess you could choose just not to train Arthur to promotion. You could do that, I guess, and use Natasha. I guess I'm gonna put her at like bottom of C tier. Because like I said, this is not based just on my playthrough. This is what I think, how good I think she is. She's gonna be the bottom one here. She's not very good, but you can use her if you want, and she will be fine. She can contribute. She can. Okay, what else? Loot, F tier, worse than Ewan because she's harder to recruit. I don't know. Maybe you actually get her even if you don't go to her village. I guess she is actually better though because she can fight in the early game. She can fight a little bit. I don't think there's ever a reason to bring her. Like she has poor move. She doesn't do that much damage. She dies in 2 hits. I guess Ewan is like worse though. Like he dies in 1 hit at that point in the game. Myr, where do we put Myr? I guess she goes here. She can do one thing. She can tank the like long-range bolting and purge tomes in her joining chapter, which is pretty nice. You can use Noel's phantoms to tank one and like Myr to tank the other. She takes 0 damage, she's completely safe. Phantoms are expendable, so they're completely safe. She does one thing, then I never saw a reason to feel her again. She would very often just die, so she wasn't that helpful to bring. But she did one thing, and she did that like fine. Is that better than Lara Shell? I think so. No, is it like? But also, I guess Lara Shell also gets credit for like, if you do bring her, you get a mounted staff user with only 6 move. But I guess you can do it. Maybe Lara Shell should actually go here then. She is probably better than Nami then. You can't use staves with her. She joins very late. So yeah, full tier below Natasha looks fine to me. Okay, you got these 3 left. I guess Eirika is gonna be interesting to talk about. Obviously, Amelia goes somewhere in this tier. I don't really know what order to do it in. She's completely useless. Probably more useless than Yuan, because Yuan hits on resistance and has 1 to range. So I'm gonna put her last here in F tier. And okay, we're actually gonna do one more tier here. Add row below, and this is going to be Marissa tier. This is gonna be the Shadow Realm. So she gets her own tier for one reason. These units, they're completely useless, so you never feel them. But they have no cost. Like, there's no cost in recruiting them. Like, loot, you get her for free, just go to the village, whatever. Yuan, you just go to the house next to the barrier staff house. Like, obviously you're gonna go there because you want the barrier staff. Also, you need to recruit him to get the energy ring. Amelia, you need to either steal from her or recruit her to get the speed wing. So that means you are gonna bring Colm to the chapter 13 because you want to steal the body ring, right? So you can steal her speed wing and then just not recruit her, I guess. Or you can just recruit her and have her give the speed wing to someone else. So either way, like, you're probably gonna have a like weak unit close to Amelia anyway. So because you want the speed wing, so you're getting the speed wing. You're definitely gonna do that, and then you're getting Amelia for free, right? But Marissa, oh boy, Marissa. She is a completely useless unit. She joins in chapter 10 with stats that are worse than Joshua's stats, and Joshua joins in chapter 5 chapters earlier. Basic math, yay. I guess 6 chapters because 5x, but whatever. He's not present in the chapter, so he has 5 more chapters compared to her, and he has better stats. And to get her, you have to do this like really complicated thing where you like talk to Garrick and you talk to Innes and you talk to Tethys, and then you like fight a bunch of dudes, grind down your weapons and everything, and then you like talk to her and you get a unit that is like bad. Like, come on, man. A useless unit that has a big cost. The cost is that you don't just fly over the mountain with Seth and kill the boss, and don't have to like waste a bunch of weapons fighting enemies for no gain. So she goes in the Shadow Realm. She's the only unit that is there's a downside to recruiting her. It's actually better to not recruit her at all, than to get her. That's why she's in the Shadow Realm. Worst unit in the game, which is pretty funny. And we have Eirika left, and I don't really know how to rate her. Honestly, what I kind of want to do is like give her her own tier, like Lord tier or Cease tier or whatever, because like she has a bunch of unique things about her, good and bad. Bad, she is force deployed in a lot of maps where you would rather not deploy her because she gets one shot very easily. She has 3 defense and 17 HP, I think, or 16 HP. So like lance users can very easily like one shot her. You would rather not bring her, but she's force deployed. Like, how do you rate that? You also get a game over if she dies. So those are the negatives. Positives, she's the convoy, which is sometimes very useful. She's the only one who can seize, and like maybe it's. How do you rate that? How do you rate that? Like, that's crazy, right? Because like my gut tells me that like you shouldn't give her credit for seizing. That's dumb. But I would totally give credit to a unit who like carries her to the throne so she can seize. Like, if Saleh warps her to the throne so she can seize, then I would give Saleh credit for that, for like helping with the seize. But like then she should also get credit for doing the seize. But if she gets credit for doing the C's, then like she should be here, right? Best, you literally cannot win without her. If you don't have her, you can't win, right? But you also always have her, so... but like, how much credit does she get? Does she get like full win the game credit? Like she carries the I win button, but she can't press it unless she gets a lot of support. So I don't really know how to rate her. So like the cop-out move would just be to create another tier and name it like Lord tier, with all these oddities as part of that. As like, if you don't give her any credit for ceasing or for being, I think she still gets credit for being the convoy though. But if you ignore the cease, if you ignore the like force deploy, like basically if you ignore the like Lord stuff about her, minus the convoy, you always count the convoy. Protect wagon. I guess she goes somewhere around here, around France tier, somewhere around France and La Rochelle, I guess. She can fight a little bit very early on. You would rather just have Seth do it. Once she promotes, which is very late, she can rescue drop at least, which is good. And yeah, she is the convoy, which is sometimes good. Sieglind is not super strong. That's not true. Sieglind is super strong, but it's tied to Eirika, so it doesn't actually do very much damage a lot of the time. She can double some enemies late in the game, but she will usually like hit them once, then die on the retaliation in one hit, so it's not very useful. And most of them she can't even double. So like, I guess this is basically my tier list. Sacred Stones, 0% growths, Eirika route, hard mode. It was really fun to play, I recommend it. And now I'm hella tired. Damn, how do people do this? It's really hard, but it was really fun. I guess I'm gonna post this because I'm not a coward. Leave me a... I don't actually care about likes. Give me a dislike if you dislike it. Give me a like if you like it. Don't subscribe if you want. I don't care. I'm not gonna upload anything else probably. But never ever hit the bell. If you hit the bell, you're a sheep. You're a sheeple if you hit the bell. Don't do it. Don't do it. Again, I'm J-Mace. This was fun. I can see why people like make videos now, I guess. Goodbye.